Have you ever dreamed of having one of those lush green homes you see online, only to end up with a sad collection of crispy brown leaves? Yeah, me too. Well, this explainer is for you. We're going to dive into the Soil to Soul Guide to Plant Growth and walk through the real highs and lows of being a plant parent. So let's dig in.
So, the guide we're looking at kicks off with this really simple but powerful idea. And right away, you kind of get the hints that this whole journey, it's about a lot more than just keeping a plant from dying. It's really about a shift in your perspective.
The beginning. We all know this feeling, right? You're scrolling through social media, you see these absolutely stunning plant-filled rooms, and you just think, I want that. It's this dream of creating your own little personal jungle, a calm, green escape right in your own space. And let's be real, for most of us, this whole thing doesn't start with a deep love for horticulture. It starts with design. You see a plant as the perfect living sculpture, you know? That one final piece of decor that's going to tie the whole room together.
And of course, that leads to the wish list. You want that big, dramatic monstera with the cool leaves, or maybe an elegant peace lily. Or you hear about the unkillable snake plant, or grab a cute little succulent. These are basically the celebrities of the plant world, and they really represent that peak aspirational dream.
But then, the dream meets reality. And this, my friends, is where all our good intentions can go so wrong. We're about to step into what our source material calls the great plant lie. I mean, the advice seems so simple, doesn't it? Plants need water, duh. So you grab your watering can, you're all excited to show your new green friend some love. But this simple piece of advice, it's dangerously incomplete.
Okay, so this is what blows most people's minds. We all have this myth in our heads. More water equals more love. But the truth? The guide says overwatering is the #1 killer of houseplants, period. We think the soil should always be a little damp, but the reality is roots need to breathe. They need oxygen. If they're constantly soaked, they're basically drowning.
And all that drowning leads to the dreaded root rot. And it is exactly as gross as it sounds. The plant's lifeline, its roots, literally start to decay and die because they're suffocating in all that love we've been pouring on them. So when you see those leaves turning yellow up top, this is what's really happening down below the surface.
Now, this is usually the lowest point in the journey. This is the phase where so many of us are just tempted to give up for good. But our source frames this not as a failure, but as a totally necessary turning point.
Oh, we have all been here. That one corner of your home that's just filled with empty pots and the ghosts of plants you used to own. It's that moment of pure frustration where you decide you just don't have a green thumb. But listen, you are not alone, and this is not the end of the story.
So how do we get out of the graveyard and into the garden? Well, instead of just guessing, the Soil to Soul Guide gives us a super simple 3-step plan. First, you understand the light you actually have. Second, you choose a plant that matches that light. And only then, after you've done those two things, do you worry about mastering the basics.
This right here is the core insight. Forget everything else for a second. Light is a plant's food. So before you even think about buying a plant, you have to get to know the light in your own home. Is it bright and direct? Is it kind of low and shady? Answering that one question is the single most important step you can take for success. And this is where we get to play matchmaker. Instead of picking a plant that's famous for breaking hearts, I'm looking at you, fiddly fig, you choose one that actually understands your lifestyle. Grab a pothos because it's so resilient, or a ZZ plant that literally thrives when you forget about it. This is all about setting yourself up for a win from the very beginning.
And you know what? When you finally get this part right, everything changes. You move into the final phase of the journey, and this is where the real satisfaction is. It's not in having a perfect plant, but in the quiet joy you get from patience and understanding.
So, the guide recommends you start with these new best friends. This is your beginner plant dream team. Every single one of them is tough, they communicate their needs pretty clearly, and they'll reward your newfound knowledge with actual visible growth. They're the confidence builders every new plant parent needs.
This is the big mental shift. You're going to throw out that strict watering schedule. Instead, you just learn to observe. You stick your finger in the soil to see if it's actually dry. You notice how the afternoon light hits a leaf. You just watch. And you get to experience that quiet joy of seeing a new leaf slowly unfurl.
And that kind of brings us full circle to this last piece of wisdom from the source. The whole journey, it actually transforms you. You stop chasing that perfect Instagram-worthy plant, and instead you find real satisfaction in the quiet, mindful practice of just caring. You become more patient.
Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Throughout this whole roller coaster, from the initial dream to the plant graveyard and finally to a thriving garden, yeah, the plant has been growing, but so have you. And it really makes you wonder, what if the real growth we were looking for was never in the pot to begin with?